Dago everyone. In this video I will be talking about some of our maple teachings. I kind of wanted it to be more of a some of the practices me and my family use when we are collecting sap for syrup. So this is usually the time that we are tapping trees. My grandfather always told me to go out and look for the maple trees and measure around with a measuring tape. And he always said for every 18 inches, that's how many taps can be. Um, so if it's 18 inches around, or maybe just a little bit more than that, then it's ready to, put a tap in. And you're basically drilling a hole into the tree and you're trying to go a few inches in until you can, there's always kits. My grandfather had kits that were like really old, and but you can get kits anywhere actually, and they'll have a spout and you put it in, and some of the things my grandfather always said was he always taught me how the tap flowed, and it was always a nice experience when we first put the tap in and you start seeing it drip. And as kids we would always go right underneath and open our mouth and try and catch some sap into our mouth, right in the beginning. And that's medicine, it cleanses our body, and that's what the sap is for. It helps cleanse ourselves. So the way the sap flows, I actually have my family's notes. My grandmother, she takes notes for everything, so she's got a really old notebook. Like the pages are a little bit they look a little bit yellow from it being so old. And it just has everything in it, family recipes, um, her famous strawberry jam recipe, um, and like also my grandfather's little tricks he would use for tapping. He would write it in here so he could remember it for the next year. So it all depends on temperature. So the reason why we tap trees now is because during the day it's mostly warm and during the night it's cold. So you usually do it, springtime when spring's just beginning. It gets that nice flow. So at night is below freezing temperature. That's when the pressure inside the trees become negative into relation to the atmosphere pressure. So as the maple tree begins to freeze, the sap is sucked in through the tree. Basically from the ground through the water, nutrients, everything. So the sap is brought up to the tree. So it usually kind of makes its way up to the top. And then during the day, during the warmer temperature, that's when it creates pressure inside the tree, and that's when it pushes the sap back down to the bottom. So when you have your sprout, that's when it starts coming out through the tap, and then you start collecting. The way my grandfather, and also speaking with a few other family members who tap trees, usually I know like in the kits that I've seen recently, they have filters kind of built into the buckets that are tied around the trees. Um, Sometimes you don't. My grandfather never did. All he did whenever, he was getting ready to make the maple syrup itself is he would just keep boiling it down, rinsing it out, boiling it down, just to get rid of any impurities. You always want to make sure there's a lid. You don't want to go and check a bucket and there'll be like a small squirrel stuck inside, or any type of small animal trying to, get at your sap that you're going to be using. So that's just kind of some of the things that me and my family use. We're going to be probably getting ready for maple ceremony, pre-COVID times, and hopefully soon we'll be able to get back in the longhouse. And when we do maple ceremony, they pass out the sap. So it's not actually maple syrup, it's just the sap. And you stand there with your cup, and everybody, when you're ready, you stand up and you hold your cup. And then you give thanks for the maple syrup and you ask for it to cleanse you, because that's what um, the sap is used for. It's used for cleansing yourself, cleansing your mind, and renewing yourself. We're just coming off of midwinters, and that's when we start to renew all of creation, all of life. So sap is when you kind of take time for yourself to renew yourself and get yourself ready for the next upcoming year. So that's just some of the teachings on how we tap trees, that my family tap trees. If your family taps trees, let us know if anything is different, or if you guys have your own tricks. Or I think the great thing too is, not only is it so nice when we're driving around the community and seeing so many maple trees tap, but even outside of the community, it's amazing seeing so many maple trees tap too. And then if you ever get the chance, they usually host classes here. Obviously, when COVID's not really prevalent, I would always see classes out in the bush, doing teachings and everything. And also, too, if you go to your local maple syrup, they usually call it like the Sugar Shack or something. I know back home there's one that we always go to, and there's like a pancake house next to it. And um, there's just so much knowledge, and everybody is so knowledgeable, and it's so nice just hearing everybody's take on what sap means to them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you guys have any stories you want to tell, if your grandparents tap trees, if you want to tap trees, let us know.